Today we're going to talk about kind of the strategy that we've done with our relationship with Puppet and really kind of enhancing how we use data that we collect in the Splunk environment and use it to make data-driven decisions. In a lot of cases where you're going to see in a lot of the different examples I'm going to show you is really focused around kind of helping, remediate some of the remedial tasks that you typically have to do that ultimately cause big failures in your environment. And one of the things that we're really driving around these use cases around kind of helping you understand that it can be very simplistic when you're implementing them, and the way that we actually can take the data from multiple different data sources, we can actually help you make it so that it can be templatized, dynamic, and then ultimately basically one alert fixes all issues specifically to that service. Real quick, our legal department makes us put this up here because there could be some forward-looking statements that we're documenting within the slide deck. But really what it comes down to is really focused on just helping you guys understand what our technology is, how we're progressing with it, and also the partnership that we have with Puppet today. Quick intro. So I've been at Splunk for about 4 years, 2 months and 12 days. It's been really fun since I've been here. I've had a chance to basically explore the world. You'll probably notice that I do fly quite a bit. I've actually gotten to the point where travel has been a normal thing, a part of my life. Just last year, I flew 220,000 miles. That's across 7 different countries and about 38 states total. And what's nice about this is this kind of exposes me to different things that I see within the field. So I get to work with a lot of customers, a lot of vendors. We're able to actually take a look at how all these things work together with customers kind of pitching new ideas to us as well as helping them implement new features. I also have 3 boys. They keep me fairly busy when I am home. And it's just really about kind of driving technology and helping it with each one of our customers. Now, one of the things that we really face with from an engineering perspective, there's too many choices in the market today. Like, how do we actually solve issues? How do we deploy issues? And actually, how do we actually respond to different things within an environment so that we can respond to it from a business perspective? And so, as you're aware, there's a lot of different choices you currently do today. You can build and forget your environment. You can actually use Puppet Bolt. You can actually build a black box and do Kubernetes cluster. You can actually build templates. But the idea is really focused around taking a look at all the different options you have today and really kind of simplifying it based on the data you're getting. And one of the things that we've done with Puppet is really help kind of take the information that we've gotten for our customers as well as their customers and building into what we call the State of DevOps report. How many of you guys have actually read the PDF or taken a look at it? So what's really important about this is actually taking the look from the practitioner side and actually seeing what engineers are actually experiencing as problems today and some of the things that they're looking at and trying to solve for. One of the biggest things that we are trying to solve for in this industry today is building an AIOps story. How do we actually deliver a solution that allows you to basically focus on the high level and also features within your product, but then also not worry about kind of a lower level task like cleaning a disk or syncing a time server. And that's kind of the most common things I keep hearing over and over again. Like, how do I make this more simplistic so that I don't have to have someone triaging this? They can actually work on higher level issues. As a site reliability engineer, before I came to Splunk, it was really about building the right tool set for the right use cases. And it just came down to the point where we were really kind of streamlining how we were doing things. In a lot of cases, we had to pick reliability over stability and sometimes stability over reliability. And on top of that, we were iterating on our tool sets using open source and commercial together. And it was really kind of interesting when you think about being able to kind of work on specific use cases and then the next week make a completely different decision and using another tool set. So it's all about kind of being able to stay on your toes and really kind of look at what you're doing as a whole. You guys have probably seen this. It's about what is your organization willing to do. So from an SRE's perspective, a lot of the teams I work with, they have what we call urgent budgeting. It's really about how much is your company willing to take downtime to basically build new features and actually deliver product really quickly. And this all plays into the use case I'm going to be talking about in a few minutes, but really just wanted to give you kind of a quick insight into how we're actually looking at this. As you guys may be aware, a lot of the high-performing IT organizations that actually go in a more agile fashion are able to deliver software quickly, but also fix bugs really quickly. And that's one of the things that we're really looking to when we talk about there's data everywhere. And this is part of like the Splunk campaign, and you guys will see that we've actually even changed our colors. We want more pink and orange all of a sudden. What's really kind of showing the world that we're really about collecting all types of data to make the right decisions. One of the things out of the Puppet report is also kind of talking about the reliability of organizations and how we see our ability to basically react to things as we're collecting them. How many are you guys currently a Splunk customer today? And combination Puppet customer as well? Okay, perfect. So you guys already have really two powerful tool sets that already interact with each other, and you can actually make decisions based on what we're collecting. How many of you guys are using the Puppet report viewer today in your environment? Okay. So if you haven't used it yet, I'll talk a little bit more about it later. It's really focused on helping you get real-time insight from your Puppet enterprise environment into Splunk so that you can actually make quicker decisions. So when it comes down to something simple as agent not reporting to maybe a configuration change that was being done prematurely or a deployment that happened that was by accident, you'll be able to get insight as it's happening. As we actually get into more high-performing IT organizations, I work with a lot of what we call unicorn accounts. So a lot of the big fintech, blockchain companies, they're really focused on being more competitive in the market space. So when they think of taking customer requirements, for example, and building feature sets out of it, they really want to make sure that when they deliver it, it's a really good experience. So a lot of customers like Netflix, for example, do a lot of canary testing and actually take a look at what a sample of their customer set is doing with that feature and then making changes on the fly. I work with a lot of different payment providers, the traditional and also the bleeding edge, and they're really seeing the value in basically being able to listen to customers and provide real-time features based on the communication they get. And as we get into all the different types of ways we look at analytics, it's really about like understanding the phases of your dev lifecycle and how do we get communication and how they overlap from your organization perspective. Because you could actually be spending all day building a tool set to monitor your environment, but it's not giving you real-time insight into what your customers think of your product or what your senior management is looking for. And this is one of the things that we really kind of focus on because we want to make sure that as we're doing deployments, that as we're building new infrastructure, that we can actually see what's going on. So when we look at the stakeholders, we report to all different types of business units. Everyone has their use cases they want to implement. And so when you think about kind of what the business is looking for, they're delivering and creating new ideals. Developers are actually building feature sets. Release engineers are building platforms and trying to test for stability. And then also at the end of the cycle, business is also trying to basically figure out how it's affecting our customer and the revenue cycles. It really plays a critical part in understanding how we share this data across the organization. And so when we look at all the shared data models, specifically for multiple stakeholders, businesses can be really focused on looking at specific things associated in their environment, but if they had data to see how long a feature set took or how long it took if it failed, they could actually determine the expectation from the development team and not overestimate or underestimate how long something actually takes. So a good example is we work with a lot of development companies that build social media platforms, and they're really looking at, as they're building new features and they're finding bugs, how fast is the fix so the customer doesn't have a bad experience? So within the Splunk ecosystem, because we actually ingest all types of data points and we don't have to build schema before we ingest it, we're able to basically do correlation across all these different types of groups. And so in this case, we can look at processing time from the PMO side. From the operations security side, we can look at how long it takes to remediate things. And then also from the operational side, we can take a look at uptime availability and relate it to customer satisfaction and signups. As we get a little bit deeper into it, we actually look at the different stakeholders from a development perspective. They're also very interested in not only their tool sets, but also other reporting tool sets. So we're looking at different things that security is interested in as well as operations. And then also based on what the feature set that was delivered, is this something that our customers are excited about? And if they aren't, then can we roll back and try to re-engineer the solution for ourselves? And then of course, security is kind of the last team that always kind of gets the feedback, But what's really important about this, a lot of the teams that we're now doing DevSecOps use cases are now seeing the importance of being able to take a look at all these different data points and to basically view it from a planning to release and being able to respond to it really quickly. I actually work with a customer right now that uses Puppet and also uses Splunk in combination, and they have Twistlock in the mix of it. And if Splunk detects that a package is being deployed with Puppet, and it determines that it's not safe based on the CVE score, it actually sends a call back to Puppet's agent to actually cancel the deployment. And those are really kind of cool things when you think you have the ability to basically respond to things before they actually get introduced to the environment. And when you think about financial compliance and regulatory compliance, that one little bug could ultimately open up your whole environment, and you have to deal with very painstaking process of dealing with someone getting into your network as well as the PR mess. And of course, from an operations perspective, they're also interested in all the different use cases that everyone else is interested in, but they also don't want to be woken up in the middle of the night to resolve issues that could have been caused by a developer or something in the process where the business pushed something out too quickly. And so that's really kind of when you think about the data that we can actually pull in to make smarter decisions, all these can basically be part of the whole dev lifecycle. It's about that cultural fit that we're trying to build within our organization and actually being able to link these so that everyone takes the benefit from it. And I just pulled a few different examples of different customers that are using our product today in the dev capacity, but also with different verticals. So from Cox Automotive to McKinney, being able to take IoT, business analytics, security and compliance, APM performance, and IT operations, we're able to basically use this kind of pipeline build that we've developed to basically get insight into the business so they can make smarter decisions. Okay? Now today, the part of the discussion that I think will really interest you is how does Splunk and Bolt work together as a whole? And one of the things that we've done and worked with customers as we've implemented new solutions is really kind of help them understand this workflow in action. The ideal is really understanding what is that remedial task or the task that you want to basically create so that we can automate it based on data that we're receiving from Splunk. How do we build it? Is it as simple as a bash script or a Python script? Is it something that we need to build in PowerShell? Does it work on multiple operating systems? Then we want to go ahead and stage it, test it, and then execute it with Puppet Bolt, and then basically have Splunk actually remediate it based on that plan. Now, I just took something very simple as like a cleanup script. How many of you guys, in your daily jobs, spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes a day, or maybe even longer, cleaning up disk because a database is logging too much, or something happened where you left something on verbose and you had to clean it up? Anyone? Okay, just one person. Well, this is just a great example of basically using a combination of Puppet's versatility and using a bash script, for example, and being able to pass arguments to it. And in this case, I'm actually looking for a file. I'm passing the variable of specifically looking at a specific time period, and I'm actually telling it to delete the file based on that time interval. And a really quick example on why I kind of did this use case is something I actually do for my labs that I actually run for customers. I do a lot of load test simulations with Selenium. I actually show customers that we can do simulated loads, getting data from that Apache logs, for example, and then being able to respond to it by basically predicting how long it'll take a machine running in a container with no disk space, and then being able to use Puppet Bolt to clean it up so that we don't have to worry about doing the remediation if it does crash. In this case, we're using the script I just showed you. I'm passing variables for the actual locational logs, what the log line is going to look like, and also because I'm actually executing one command, I can actually let Splunk say, okay, based on this specific log that I'm getting, go ahead and run it against all these web services and clean it up for me. And like I said, this is just my lab environment, and I do waste probably, before Puppet Bolt came out, I probably waste maybe an hour a week. And when you're traveling and you're in an airline, and you're dealing with internet on an airplane, trying to get in the shell console and waiting for the console to refresh or something to happen can take a really long time. Now I just basically rely on Splunk to do it for me. So let's go ahead and take a look at it, what it looks like from a Splunk perspective. So you guys will see I actually have two commands up here. One is actually to basically give me the percentage of disk space that I'm using within the web server from a disk perspective, and then also to basically tell me how big my Apache access combine log is and how many events are associated with it. And what's really nice about this is normally in a traditional schema-based system where you have to basically predefine your schema, I'd have to actually parse this and run it as a secondary table and basically have it prepend to another system and then create it. But with Splunk, I have the ability to join these two environments, be able to use every single one of the outputs that are on there as a variable, and then being able to execute with Puppet Bolt to actually clean up that action. And so from an action perspective, once I've actually been able to actually execute this specific search command, I can then go ahead and build an alert based on that. And so this is really important when you think about different systems working together, different types of logging environments, and then also being able to easily, as taking that search, parameterize it, run it as a real-time search or run it over the last 15 minutes, and then being able to execute something like Puppet Task, for example, and being able to pass variables. And you'll see that I'm actually aggregating it so that every time an event comes up for a specific host, I'm actually able to pass the log line as well as the host. And that's really important when you think about your ability to basically look at something from an extraction layer and say, okay, I'm building a very simple bash script that takes a basic argument. I could have multiple types of logs that I want to clean up. And because I'm collecting in Splunk, I can aggregate it together, look at the disk percentage for that host, and then run it through our alerting system to actually execute the task. And this is really kind of cool because when you think about the power of being able to do this, we can also now get alerting and audit based on this as well. And so one of the things that you'll get the benefit of using the Puppet report viewer is also looking at the execution of your Bolt tasks. So we've actually engineered it so that if you're not using a commercial version of Puppet, you can also use an open source version and being able to use the same types of displays and getting the data in the same way. What I'm going to show you in a few minutes is the blog entry that we built for security and compliance around how we actually use Puppet Bolt to scan an environment, to send the data into Splunk, but it also works the same way as I'm showing you right here, basically to feed that data into Splunk as well. And an important thing as well to note is we also have it integrated with our collaboration suite. So I can now execute Puppet tasks from Puppet Enterprise and send it over to our collaboration suite called VictorOps. And so now not only can I be notified from the Splunk interface that this has been executed and run a report against it, but if I want to be paged or be notified this is run, I can actually go and take a look at it from the VictorOps perspective and actually page it to the correct team to notify them or just keep it on a live stream so that I have a history of what's going on. And that's really kind of one of the things that we're really focused on when we talk about a data-driven approach is by looking at how we can take different dissimilar data points, making a decision based on it, and then bringing it together as something we can use on a daily basis. And any data you're collecting on this can be used in a reporting mechanism and actually be able to respond to it. One of the things that we're going to be doing over the next couple weeks is we have our conference, and we have a lot of mutual customers that are going to be talking about some of these use cases. So if you guys have time, definitely see if there's any spots available in Las Vegas. A little late, but register for the event. And before we go, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys one more quick demo, and then I'll go ahead and let you guys go. So one of the things that we have introduced in addition to kind of what I showed you today is we actually have a blog entry about Puppet and Splunk to report compliance. This module and this use case can not only scan for vulnerabilities in your environment based on CIS benchmarks, but you can also use this for IT operations use cases. And so one of the things I wanted to highlight around this is if you're not interested in the security perspective, you can go all the way down to the bottom of the blog and actually implement this into your Bolt tool set. And if you're running this from your workstation or you have a standard operating procedure that you want to run in your environment today, you can easily go ahead and implement this so that anything that's run from the Bolt interface can be sent into Splunk for reporting. And then also, if you want to customize it so that you're getting more granular information, like the specific host that you're running on, or even the Splunk search head that you're going to be installing this on, you can actually send that payload in real time as it executes. And what's nice about this is taking that very basic example that I showed you using just a regular script, you can actually turn it into a Puppet task and build a plan out of it and actually do concurrent cleanups. You can do different things like if a system's misbehaving and it has a known pattern, based on something you're registering a log, maybe a memory leak or something happens where the latency goes above 20%, you can actually have it execute a Puppet task and actually clean it up so that you're able to basically look at the results of the feedback that you're getting. And if it's something that Splunk is able to remediate with Puppet Bolt or Puppet task, for example, you can actually get a lot of time savings because you actually are now kind of getting into this whole AOps strategy where you're using dynamic data that you're getting, executing based on it, and then no one ever has to touch it, and there's always an audit trail based on that information. And this is something that, if you guys are interested, we have it as a GitHub repo, we have a blog about it, as well as some additional information if you're interested in the security side on how this information is being sent over. And with that being said, I thank you guys for your time. If you have any questions, definitely let me know.